Welcome to the Beyond the Spine podcast, where precision meets performance. I'm Dr. Bobby Fano, Gonstead Chiropractor, educator, and performance strategist. And around here, we don't settle for average. We raise the standard because becoming better isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build through precision, discipline, and purpose. Each episode, I sit down with leading chiropractors, innovators, and performance experts to uncover the principles that drive real results in your body, in your mindset, and your mission. From biomechanics to belief systems, from clinical mastery to personal growth, we explore what it really takes to stay aligned with what matters most, so you can show up stronger in every area of your life. Whether you're a chiropractor sharpening your craft, an athlete pushing your limits, or someone committed to living at your highest level, you're in the right place. Because when the body is aligned, anything is possible. Starting now. Welcome back to the Beyond the Spine podcast. I'm Dr. Bobby Fano, your host. And in today's episode, I get to interview someone very special to the chiropractic profession. She has done more for chiropractic than any other human being that I've ever met, and I've known her for 2 decades. According to me and many others, she is the living, breathing pediatric chiropractic authority today. She's written the #1 selling chiropractic textbook in all of history. It's called Pediatric Chiropractic, and she's done 3 editions. She is past president of the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. She's past president of the Gonstead Clinical Studies Society. She has her own mentorship program where she teaches other chiropractors how to build a family wellness chiropractic practice. She has her own seminar series called The First Adjustment, where she teaches chiropractors how to specifically adjust children. She is one of 2 people that were given the authority by Dr. Larry Webster himself to teach the Webster's technique for pregnancy chiropractic care. And she is an amazing human. And I'm excited to interview her because she's going to share those nuggets for the past 40 years of practice that has inspired her to make not only a huge difference within our profession, but a huge difference in society and for children. So without further ado, please welcome Dr. Claudia Anrig to the show. I just attended your seminar in Paris, France, and it was amazing. I learned new things. I loved how you even adjusted real children there, and you really showed us what's possible with specific chiropractic with children, and it was mind-blowing for me. So I really appreciate you being here. It was fun spending the weekend with you, and I'm excited for you to share your knowledge to the rest of our audience.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Bobby. And it was great spending time with you in Paris. And just thank you for just the support that you love, not only Gonstead, but family wellness chiropractic Gonstead, which is very different as there's just a whole growing audience of younger doctors who just want to see more pregnant women and children. And I've been blessed that I kind of started the category in that. Not just for Gonsteaders, but also I created the category decades ago for our profession. So this is kind of like in my DNA, and because my dad became a chiropractor himself, he was an engineer, and then because of my mom's miracle story, I became a chiropractor. Through all of that, I mean, basically, chiropractic was kind of in my genes as a second generation person. And I had the honor as a little kid. We never took family vacations, Dr. Bobby. We would go to Gonstead seminars, and my dad would sit in the front row, and we'd have to take notes before we could go to the pool. And Dr. Gonstead would be right there, and we would be taking notes of whatever he had to say. And the one quick story on my sister, Dr. Susie, it's when she was like about 5, she went up to Dr. Gonstead sitting in his chair, and he was talking to the doctors, and she went up, Dr. Susie, and rubbed his belly, and she says, oh, my dad has one of those. We call that the Dr. Gonstead belly. And so he just almost fell off of his chair laughing at the belly, which my dad had a little pouch himself, and he called it the stabilizer. And so that's why you had to stabilize the cervical spine, the head, and so forth. But kind of our story, my story into chiropractic and then later on to Gonstead was that my mom, in her third pregnancy, she couldn't walk anymore, and she had severe bilateral sciatica pain. And so my dad was Mr. Mom doing everything in Michigan as an engineer. And then one day, my dad was at the grocery store, and I said, well, "Gosh, where's your wife and your children?" And so my dad told the story, and and basically the little guy across the countertop said, "Well, you should go see a chiropractor." So my parents, being immigrants, didn't even know what that was, couldn't even pronounce the word, but they saw in that word was hope. So my dad and mom went to the chiropractor, and he started to adjust my mom, and she was able to walk again. All the orthopedist said that basically, once she would give birth to the baby, she would just have to learn to crawl to take care of me, my younger brother, and then the baby. That crawling was the only way because he wouldn't do surgery on her. So crawling was her method of being a stay-at-home mom. And so when my mom was able to walk again, my parents moved to Arizona. My mom got into a second episode. And like most chiropractic patients, if you don't understand chiropractic, you never had any show and tell. The end result was my mom got really severe again, almost to the point where she was going to think about committing suicide because she didn't want to ruin our lives with her suffering and so forth. So we went to a little chiropractor there. The only difference about the chiropractor too was he x-rayed my mom and dad. And through that x-ray, he showed where my mom had a lot of spine degeneration. And so it just made so much sense. As a matter of fact, my dad becoming an engineer, he started looking at that biomechanically, and that was the reason then he decided to become a chiropractor, and we moved to Los Angeles, Cleveland Chiropractic College in LA. And so he was able to talk about degeneration and that it would be a chronic issue my mom would have. So it was logical. Oh, okay. You showed me something, and I'm a firm believer, and particularly in family wellness, what you show people is what you tell people. And showing it's just so powerful. My parents, being really very progressive, they turned around and brought all three of us children under chiropractic care, just almost for wellness. My brother, Dr. Daniel, who's also a chiropractor, his asthma and bedwetting went away, and my sister, Dr. Susie, her ear infections went away. And so we just all relate to the nervous system. And so, Dr. Bobby, when I was 6, about ready to turn 7, my parents says, "Claudia, what would you like to have for your birthday gift?" And I said, "Oh, Mom and Dad, I want full spine x-rays so I can, please let me go. I want to take them to the elementary school, put them up in the windows and tell everybody why all children need to have chiropractic care." I mean, what crazy kid would do that? Knowing you have to show and tell. So yeah, I needed some x-rays. Until they told my little chiropractor, Dr. Guess, and he was so just enamored about that request. He gave it to me as a birthday gift for free. I did go to school. I mounted those on a wall, and for a week, I was giving lay lectures on spine and nervous system and chiropractic care for everybody. And so that was my journey. I always knew that I wanted to be a chiropractor. I always knew somewhere in that age group, I knew too, I knew intuitively I was going to write a book, not knowing, okay, that this is now the third edition of the textbook here, only weighs about 10 pounds. So we gave birth to a book. But it was just the most amazing thing was I just knew intuitively something I was going to have a book in my life. I didn't know how to manifest it at that time. And so when my dad went to chiropractic college at Cleveland, I would go. There was day school and night school. Night school was meant for the people who were coming back from the war, and they could work in the day and then go to school at night. And so my date night on Dad's night was on a Friday evening. Would take me to school, and then chiropractic care was so much easier, and particularly chemistry, when I was like 9 years old than when it was later on in life. But anyway, so that was my date night. It was Friday night at Cleveland College in the evening. Now my mom and our move there ended up with another like bad severe episode. And so my dad and mom would go chiropractor to chiropractor, trying all these different techniques. And it would help mom out a little bit, but it just didn't really help mom out. And so finally we came across Dr. Richard Gohl. God, I loved him, Gohl. And we would go to his office on a Saturday. And my dad, of course, having questions, we'd be there hours and hours. We were just killing us. But He was the one that saved my mom's life in this thing called Gonstead. Now, back in the day, in some of the chiropractic colleges, you couldn't, Dr. Bobby, go and do other seminars because then you'd be kicked out of school. So my dad, my little immigrant dad, he was illegal the whole time. He would go to follow Dr. Gonstead anywhere because that's Dr. Gold told him to do that. And so he was taking the Gonstead technique. And so we were, I mean, at a very young age, introduced to the Gonstead system. And so when my dad graduated, finally we went to chiropractic. He moved up here to Fresno, California. That's where our practice has been for over 55 years. And Mom and Dad started the practice. My mom was the business manager. I mean, she retired at age 88. She spoiled me. All I ever had to do is show up and just be good at chiropractic. And she took care of everything. So, I mean, she just spoiled me to pieces. And it was really neat just having my dad down the hallway of life. Later on, my sister and brother joining us in the practice and so forth. And so we've been just very, very blessed. But during all this time, I just have a unique kind of life. And so I ended up going to a chiropractic college. It was upper cervical. It was Pacific States, and it became Life West. I was going to be in the first graduating class. So I was fascinated, by the way, by upper cervical, like NUCA care, all the x-ray analysis, because it was like Gonstead, all this x-ray analysis. So my dad said, you know what, experiment, have just Atlas only adjustment and do their line analysis. So for the co-founder of the school, Dr. George Anderson, I'm doing all this line analysis because I'm fascinated by x-ray. I did start the Gonstead Club, and that later became Pacific States of LifeWise. But my first class, because of this merger going on with Sid Williams and Life University, we basically were, after the national boards were told, well, guess what? You have to go move to some place called Marietta, Georgia, where there's a big chicken, and you need to go there for schooling. We had no idea. So we jumped in the car, all of us students, had no housing, no anything.
Wow.
And so then... so we had to get our numbers for clinic. So guess what? And it ends up, well, the only way back then in the day is you would be in the Lucky Street Clinic in downtown. And it was terrible. I mean, your car was broken into. I mean, it was horrible. Wow. But I was so desperate to get visits. The goal was the first person who was signed in would get the first new patient. So Dr. Webster, Larry Webster, a dear friend story in just a moment from now, he was there, like the clinic director. And so I was the first person there sitting in the dark. So I'd be the first one signing in. So that meant an hour and a half there. So at Lucky Street Clinic, I did everything. I didn't matter. I had clean toilets. I clean adjusting tables. Dr. Webster and I would sit there for a couple of hours, becoming best friends in life. And we were always just on the phone on a weekly basis after we graduate. After I graduate, every week, Larry and I would talk and we dream about the ICPA. So that's how I learned about the Webster technique. And so because of Larry and I, our relationship, I became, right after I graduated, I was on a board member, just brand new, a young doctor. He had a dream about, he and I, about we need to get people in more techniques. Of course, exposing in ICPA would be the Gonstead short lever technique. So we started the certification program back I think it was like in 1992, 93. And so we had 10 classes going on. As a matter of fact, if I'm correct, you attended one of my classes. I can't believe time has gone by so fast, sir. And so that triggered my relationship with Dr. Webster. So that's, and the ICPA program. And one of the things that was unique about Dr. Webster was, because we're talking dearest of friends, Larry wanted to give me a lot of people don't know, he wanted to give me the ICPA, give it to me. Like from me, from the founder to you, you're my wing woman. I want to give it to you. And at that time, I just said, maybe let's just do it as a board. And so I gave away, and it says ICPA, left it with the board. But if I would have done what he had asked me 35 years ago, I would have been the co-founder with him with the ICPA. And then my life would probably take another journey running how big the ICPA has come today. And so and after his passing, I became the first president, served on the board for over 25 years. And then I thought it was time for me to teach classes elsewhere and so forth. And so I retired out of that and started teaching seminars. But what happened in between all of that was everybody knows Dr. Greg Plaugher, very unique. So so Dr. Plaugher got a chance to write something called the textbook, the purple book. Well, I'm going to fess up. I made him pick the color purple because I wanted the book to stand out and everybody's shelf. See, look up the ends. Yeah. So I wanted the book to stand out. So it was standing out. It had to be either red. And that's, to me, the little alert, warning. So I thought purple would be a really good color. It's actually my favorite color. So I said, well, hey, let's do a purple. And so he said yes to purple. And everybody now calls it what? The purple textbook.
Book. Yeah.
The purple. So
That's how I learned it.
so that I was given a chance to do a chapter on pregnancy and pediatrics, mainly pediatrics. But in there, I also asked Dr. Larry Webster, could I put the Webster technique, write it formally, finally into a textbook? And he gave me permission to put it in a textbook. And as a matter of fact, with Dr. Webster, there are only two people that were ever authorized to teach his technique, and that was Dr. Judy Forster, my co-founder, which I can get into her later on. She and I broke the glass ceilings and created another category. So it was Dr. Judy Forster and myself. So we're the only two authorized. Now, anybody can teach. Dr. Bobby, you could teach Webster technique, but you're not authorized. And even with the ICPA, and I love our organization there, the only two still are authorized by Dr. Webster to teach a technique are myself and Dr. Judy Forster. And so, but from that chapter, the textbook company looked at that and said, wow, I think we need to do on pediatrics. So back in the early 1990s, they reached out and asked me to be an editor of the textbook. And I asked Dr. Greg Plaugher to be a part of that because of his gifts and talents. And so I knew all the people in pediatrics. So I just kept tapping on shoulders. Would you write this chapter? Would you write this chapter? And honestly, Dr. Bobby, 90% of all of the chapters written, they're coming from amazing Gonstead people. Dr. Monica Berger, who happened, by the way, her history, which is another whole story. She was a patient of mine, failing to thrive. Anyway, that's another conversation. Wow. So Dr. Monica, my patient, I told her the 5 things not to screw up your life to become a chiropractor. So she was one of those people. When I saw autism coming up and I knew I didn't have time to study it, I called Monica. I said, somebody needs to study this area. It's going to grow. And I don't have time. So she listened to me, studied autism, which led her in her whole path in life, where Dr. Berger is doing what she's doing now and getting her PhD. She's almost done with it. It's just because I called her, I said, something's happening here and we need somebody as smart as you are to figure out. So Dr. Berger is in the book. Dr. Stephen Tanaka, was amazing in the area of neurology. The chapter in X-ray with Dr. Greg Plaugher, Christopher Kent. We had a chapter on fractures, which was really, really unheard of. Like, you're caring for kids there. We had all these wonderful techniques, but a majority of all the writers were Gonstead people, the basic science stuff and so forth. Now being the third textbook 30 years later, we have added on, like, for example, safety. We've added on, for example, safety and pressure. We've added on extremities, Gonstead extremities. Dr. Kat and Dr. Dan Prince did a phenomenal job with that chapter. And Dr. Mark Verking, by the way, he was supposed to have written a chapter, first edition and second edition. Dr. Mark was so busy getting his chapters together. He always missed deadlines. So, but anyway, so the book is 80% now in third edition, all Gonstead writers. And so we've been so blessed. So
yeah, it's an amazing feat. And then here's right up here. I don't know if you see that. There's the first edition.
Wow.
You see that right back there?
Yeah.
So that was my first introduction to who you were. And then my mentor in school was Dr. Linda Mullen. And you guys were friends, right?
Yes.
Okay. Like, how did you meet her? And because while you were doing, with Dr. Webster, did he actually have the technique before you met him, or he developed that when you knew him?
He had the technique. And so he was a Logan basic guy. And so, he, when he wanted to help women have a better fetal position so the baby could be born. So it was all about, it's all about getting the baby in a better position. And so what he did with the technique is that Dr. Sid Williams would never let anybody do Logan Basic in the school because it was Sid Williams' college. So Dr. Webster did prone, and then he adjusted with the drop table. He did prone.
Okay.
And when we got the book to put it in writing, I said, well, Dr. Webster, can I call it posterior left and posterior right so people can understand a listening system? So he did agree, call it posterior left and posterior right. And then I would teach, and when we did the ICPA, I taught side posture, the push. So side posture, for anybody, I want to let you know, if you're doing a side posture, short lever, Gonstead technique, you can do that in first, second, and third trimester. Now, there might be somebody who may be super high risk, but that high risk patient may not even be a patient anyway in your office. This would be somebody with triplets or quads, and they're in bed rest. So we wouldn't probably not even see that patient in our practice. But so that's, and then what I did was, when I did the original Webster technique in my practice, there was I had some failures. His Webster technique didn't work, and that just drive me nuts. And so I started thinking about it as a Gonsteader. That's what Dr. Gonstead is. So if it didn't work, find a fix. And so I started looking at it. And so I developed, if somebody has a complete breech baby, the head is up and the rear end is down, I developed using a Gonstead system of it and trigger points of Dr. Webster, but I changed the system around. Then I created one for face and brow. So this was the face and brow one, and then transfer slide. So that was the second technique. I developed those three, saw them to be successful, and then I taught them to Dr. Webster and to Dr. Judy Forster, and then everybody began to incorporate privately in our practices. Then we knew it worked for different technique approaches, and then we introduced it to the ICPA program. So I taught that for over 25 years, was the advanced Webster technique in my short lever part of my module that we did. And Dr. Linda Mullins, how I met her was, I think she was just graduated, young doctor, and I just saw all her. She is gifted. She's so intellectual. And matter of fact, she wrote a chapter in the third edition. She's brilliant. She's the brilliant one. And so what I did was, when I saw her gift and talents, I just asked her, gosh, would you consider coming on the board of directors for Gonstead Clinical Studies Society? And would you become a board member? And then eventually she did a lot of kind of executive director things. And then she helped us so much out, just like Dr. Lydia Deaver did. She's amazing. Our diplomate examination. And so what Dr. Linda did and Dr. Lydia is they elevated the understanding of academia, that it's not just I hate to use the word, a good old boy system in Gonstead, but that we had to elevate for this new generation. So I with Dr. Linda, every time I would go to Atlanta, we always had lunch or breakfast together, and she's just a dearest friend. And
Cool.
And Dr. Lydia, what a gift she is to Gonstead. So we are very, very blessed. So, by the way,
Absolutely.
Dr. Bobby, have you ever heard of the word family wellness chiropractic? Did you ever hear that word?
A few times.
A few times. Okay. Do you want to know the history behind that?
Sure.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so I have a massive, large practice, all families, and then, I when I was a student, I went to a seminar called Renaissance. And I ended up with two of my best friends out of there, Dr. Joe Felicia, Dr. Guy Riegman. And so we were like all best buddies, like my Larry Webster relationship. And there was a time, by the way, that they wanted me to take over the Renaissance seminar. That's another hidden story out there. And I kind of said no, because I was helping the ICPA out. So I'm in a seminar, and I meet a person from Calgary, and and my mom meets her at a luncheon, and she says, "You have to meet this woman. She's like you. You're just powerhouses. You don't know the word no." And so my mom introduces me to Judy Forster, one of my dearest friends in the universe. We had like kaboom. It was like a thunder and lightning striking at the same time, because we had these huge practices. So we thought, so everybody, Guy Regan was, you need to start teaching this work out there. And so this is this is in the 80s. And so we're going to go, okay. So we start thinking, all right, we'll go to platforms. We found out back then, dang it, we had a glass ceiling for women in chiropractic. You could talk to chiropractic assistants, like CAs, in the dark hallway in a side hotel room. And that's all female doctors would do, is talk to chiropractic assistants. That, not Judy and I, didn't work. So I just looked at her. I said, "Hey, friend, we don't need to go to somebody's platform. Let's just do our own seminar." So we took a year. We studied and prepared for a 12-hour CE level thing. We flew to Czechoslovakia and we went to Czechoslovakia to get a visa because it was behind the Iron Curtain, and that's a whole nother story with machine guns and the
Oh,
hotel rooms
wow.
listening into you. It was really creepy. But anyway, we went, and we went to Charles University in Prague, and so Dr. Jan Root, who was like the number one guy in biomechanics, manual medicine is what they call it. And basically it would be kind of what chiropractic is here, but he was studying it. So we went over there to study 2 weeks with manual medicine, so nobody could just say these women don't know what they're talking about, because there was no textbook at that time. So we throw in studying with a world premier manual medicine manual medicine doctor, or kind of pseudo chiropractor. And then
Hmm.
we came back and launched our own seminar and so forth. And so when we were doing, that time it was called Peter Pan Potential, the kid that never wants to grow up. And our conference was the first in there. We would have 400 to 600 people attending our seminars. And on top of it, we introduced, back in the 1980s, family wellness chiropractic. It was never used at the terminology in chiropractic. So Judy and I created the category that now is normal. Like, people go to chiropractic college because I want to be a family wellness chiropractor. So Judy and I created the nomenclature for that back in the 80s. And now it's normal now, so yeah.
That's
So
rad. Was it all symptom based before instead of
yes,
like
yeah.
wellness based?
Oh yeah, it was you. The chiropractor only saw colic babies and torticollis. That was it, and they thought that was, it wasn't family chiropractic. Is I see children in my practice. So it was not pediatrics. Wasn't pregnancy. Is they would the only people that the chiropractors would adjust with their own spouses, their wives, but nobody had ongoing pregnancy pediatric chiropractic. So when Judy and
Wow.
I with Larry Webster started wanting to promote worldwide the Webster technique. See, Larry not only gave me permission to put it in the textbook, he gave us permission, Judy and I, to teach it all over the world. And that's what Judy and I did for 15 years and so forth. And so that's how the momentum of family wellness chiropractic care came, was our love and passion to see more families and do it for wellness reasons, not symptoms. So our
Right.
concept was like dentistry, start early and have lifetime of care. So that was the kind of practices we had. And so that's what developed that area there. Yeah.
So back in the day when you were a student and a young doctor, would people look at pediatric chiropractic like, why would you adjust children?
We
What
didn't
was
get
the
any.
state of it?
Yeah, zero. So we
Oh,
had a class,
wow.
yeah, pediatrics and obstetrics, but it wasn't anything. I mean, now at least if you're at a subluxation based college like Life University, Life West, Palmer, Cleveland College, and you're going to get chiropractic. They have to teach you certain things to pass the exams, but they have to have. But back then, it was the instructor then teaching it told us, just adjust children with adult techniques, just
Mm.
modify it. We were never taught anything, so that was where the textbook came about. Was the fact that I wish I would have had a tool to go look at, see the visual pictures and all the rest, and to have something that could help me get this kind of a better understanding. So that's where the textbook eventually came out of it, and majority of all the schools adopt the textbook. I mean, how do you beat this thing? Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
Was there an aha moment for you where you were like, okay, I need to help bring this to light, form a structure around taking care of children?
Yeah, I think where with between teaching with things with you mean as a student doctor, or at once I was in the practice?
Yeah, just when you were, you felt like you were saying that you were going to write a book one day. Here you are, being invited to co-author the
Yeah.
Purple Book, right? You're in practice, you're involved in the ICPA, Dr. Webster. Was there an aha moment for you where you were like, I want to expand this?
In some ways, I did. That's why I went off and teaching seminars myself. And the unique thing is, when I was teaching my ICPA seminars, I had so many young doctors saying, Dr. Claudia, can I come to your office and spend a week, spend a month? I mean, they wanted to be joined to the hip with me. And I'm looking at them, no, I'm a normal practicing family wellness chiropractor, and my patients, my families are not, this is not a petting zoo. You can't come in and watch. It was, to me, would have been invasive in my relationship, in my practice. And so one day I thought about it. I said, well, there's something I could do. I could create a mentoring program called Generations, And what I could do is I could take what I've done and I transfer this information over twice a month. I'll teach 30 minutes, and then I'll work with the doctor individually if they're big city or small town or rural, different techniques, whatever it was. And then I
Mm-hmm.
would spend about an hour and a half a month. And I have taken people who are right out of school, and within like 6 months to a year, they have a waiting list practice to get in to see them. I have taken one couple who had a very successful practice in California. They sold it, but they were sitting up their butts. I'm going to start my, and they would say, laugh at this too. They were sitting on their butts to start their practice. I said, no, we're starting now and let's get out. So they use all my generations material and so forth to educate people. And then they turn around their
Mm-hmm.
first week of opening up a practice. And again, they had advanced confidence, all the rest. They had 100 new patients the first 2 weeks of starting a practice because they took their confidence in adjusting and just applied education. And I've been working with them for 15, 17 years. And all they're doing is now just using my educational material. So how I felt the void of wanting to mentor somebody was not coming to the office because it wasn't the right thing. But basically, I came to them, and I teach now at Zoom, and I do the class twice a month, and then the materials, every newsletter you could ever have, flyers, PowerPoint workshops. My people are talking to OBs, midwives, pelvic floor
Mm-hmm.
physical therapists, attorneys if you're big in auto accidents and kids and injuries and all the rest. But we're a pediatrician, so we're trying to get the message out to the allopathic world, the holistic world. But my goal is that chiropractors, this is the cool thing about family wellness chiropractic. A lot of relief Gonstead people, Dr. Bobby, don't want that practice. They need so many new patients because they're
Mm-hmm.
focused on, I'm going to give the best Gonstead around. I'm going to give relief chiropractic care. And then once I fix them, you don't have to come back. And kind of that's what Dr. Gonstead was because he was so busy and all the rest. But I have to be honest with you, I think if Dr. Gonstead was alive today, I know he'd want to be a family wellness chiropractor because imagine him living a life of decades of seeing people from the moment they're pregnant to birth and all the rest. But without Dr. Gonstead's work, with all the engineering and how to work on the disc and all the rest, that was amazing. But what I found is that a lot of times the relief Gonstead people, they just need a flood of new patients because they're practicing in that world of relief and fix it. And I mean, and God bless them, they're doing such a great job. I wanted to see less new patients, have high retention, and imagine, Dr. Bobby, and if I got to adjust a nervous system of a child, not spine, imagine nervous system of the child,
Mm-hmm.
uniting the intelligence of what God created in the brain, down their spinal cord through their nervous system, touching every cell in the body, just like the chiropractic care I got as a kid. Imagine if we could unite a nervous system, 24 adjustments in a year, in 10 years, that's 240 nervous system adjustments and
Mm-hmm.
480 nervous system adjustments by the time they're 20. That was, I wanted a different concept for not only my reality, but I've been teaching it to fellow Gonstead people and people who are not Gonsters that this can be done. We could just be adjusting the nervous system because I swear to God, every time you see somebody every 2 weeks, every time that kids fall in or tumble or now they're in technology like this, they have
Mm-hmm.
something going on with their spine and nervous system. It hasn't showed up with the symptom yet, but something is going on.
Absolutely. There's so many layers to your experience. And one of the most refreshing things about you is that you're principled. And in today's world, you kind of have to seek that out in our profession because it's just, I'm sure when you were younger, it was everywhere, especially going to Life University. But I'm realizing as I'm learning from different, people and areas throughout my career that that really is special and refreshing to hear. You talk about the nervous system, you talk about, the brain body connection. And even at this last seminar, I love the energetics of the body too, because I mean, especially with a newborn, I mean, there's so many unseen forces that are changing that child. And I love how you're kind of, learning and growing, getting better yourself, in all these years of practice where you're learning new things and you communicating that to I got it. I don't know if everyone got the whole unwinding baby thing,
Yeah,
but for me, I was like, oh, that was cool. I haven't
yeah,
heard that before. And I really want to deep dive myself into learning more about that.
yeah.
So Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Bobby Fano, and I'm going to quickly interrupt this episode to give a shout out to any chiropractors who want to take care of more pregnant moms, babies, and children in their practice. There's one seminar I think you need to know about. It's called First Adjustment, taught by Dr. Claudia Anrig herself, and I am personally a graduate of this seminar myself. And Dr. Claudia Anrig didn't just enter the world of pediatric chiropractic, she helped build it. For more than 35 years, she's been caring for families, educating chiropractors around the world, and helping establish the clinical standards for pediatric and family wellness chiropractic that so many of us practice today. First Adjustment is where that experience becomes practical. You'll learn how to evaluate and adjust a pediatric patient, how to adopt your technique for newborns and children, prenatal evaluations and adjusting protocols, and most importantly, you'll get hands on instruction designed to make you more confident when you walk back into your office Monday morning. When a parent hands you their baby, you should have the knowledge, the technique, and the confidence to know exactly what you're doing. If you want to become a better family chiropractor, learn from someone who has spent decades doing it at the highest level. Go to drclaudiaanrig.com and check out the next First Adjustment seminar. Your next pediatric patient deserves that level of preparation. And now back to the show.
Yeah, and a quick a topic on that for those of with that unwinding. What happened, Dr. Bobby, as I was mentioning the summer the other weekend, was I was by accident. I was laying a newborn baby, their head into the slot of my pelvic bench, just because I was just getting myself ready to squat behind the child to evaluate the atlas and so forth. And all of a sudden, I saw, and you saw those pictures I was showing in the seminar, how my babies were just doctors. They were just stuck in almost like in a U shape. So there was a U shape of the babies, or some of them had the fencer pose and so forth. And so I saw all of this, and I'm going, oh my gosh, while I'm still evolving and still in practice, my gosh, why have I ever thought about looking at this? That's how the baby's unwinding, because Dr. Bobby, they were stuck in this wrong position in utero in the last trimester. And so what I did was I asked the parents, I'm a teaching, lecturing doctor, and I want to take this picture for two reasons. Number one, I want you to take a picture of this because this is what I have to fix. And I know your husband wasn't really excited about chiropractic because they're not a wellness patient yet in my family. So I said, I want you to take a picture of this, and this is what we need to fix because your daughter was stuck. So, and so until we have her unwounded and her using her arms and legs evenly, that's what we have to do, is we have to fix that. And then I just said also, with your permission, can I use these pictures so I can train other doctors? But that was just something that started a couple years ago. And when I felt confident that what I was seeing was patterns, and once I can repeat it, I know my chiropractors can do as well. Then I introduce a concept. Hey, let's look at this. So for a Gonsteader, that would be something we have not been taught, this kind of observation. This is a first. As a matter of fact, in my third edition in the textbook, I was just barely getting into this. I didn't feel I could add this into the textbook because I hadn't done it enough over a couple of years to feel like that was, but now I'm teaching it. And if we hopefully ever have a fourth edition, it'll be in the fourth edition. But that observation for a Gonstead person is just unbelievable. So if they ever come to like a First Adjustment seminar, which I teach about 4 a year in the United States, then they'll pick up, they'll see what I'm talking about with the unwinding and so forth. Yeah.
And I think it's so important to understand that in today's world, because now we're seeing research on how emotional trauma lives in the connective tissue, right? We have these nervous system patterns that present in the soft tissue. And I just made that connection when you shared that. I was like, that's so cutting edge.
Yeah. And imagine, Dr. Bobby, if the mom in her preconception, well, husband and wife, or partner and wife, in preconception, they were both under stress, they're in malnutrition, and this is why Gonstead chiropractors, or all chiropractors, need to work with the future conceiving couple. We need to work with them 6 months to a year to deal with their stuff on a physical, emotional level. That has to be in. It includes nutrition, maybe detoxification, their nervous system being adjusted, getting rid of as much stress. There's a Lancet study that shows if both partners are not healthy getting into a pregnancy, they are genetically going to pass on traits to their future children. So it's a genetic
Mm.
pass on. Say, just came out in 2018 in Lancet, 3 studies there. And so, as a
Wow.
Gonstead person, imagine if that person could just start talking to their clients or patients a year in advance. When you're thinking about starting a family, let's start talking, because it's particularly if you're a family wellness chiropractor, where we're interested in these things, we're studying it ourselves, and we can make that kind of impact. Then the baby will be in a better head down position. Will help mom manage her stress level. One of the things, as you heard again this weekend in my seminar, is I noticed when I first was in practice, there was only colicky babies and not reflux. And one day I walked into a case that was completely reflux. No, it wasn't called even reflux. It was a digestive tract that had not developed. And this was a failure to
Mm.
thrive baby, and they were about ready to do exploratory surgery. And I kept thinking thoracic, because that's where it was in college, and it wasn't that. Because I was working on saving this baby's life, not going into the surgery, and I found it was an atlas. And that was over 30 years ago. I found that an atlas caused reflux because it was vagal nerve, And so if we took care of
Mhm.
the atlas, we took care of the stomach and all the projectile bombing, that would go away. And so as a result of that, that changed everything. But I want to know, well, do we have reflux? I realized back then that the mothers were all tied to double A personalities, like machine guns going off in their home style, lifestyle, work style. And they're go,
Mm.
go, go. And I'm just imagine firing off all the hormonal stressors that were going on. So for whatever reason, physiologically, she's going off, just go, 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 and it was translating into her baby, causing an atlas subluxation. I have no research to prove it. I just know a relaxed moms, kind of the relaxed ones, they don't have that. But the super high alphas, they were having more babies with reflux. Yeah, so it's
Wow.
interesting.
So you're doing all this incredible activity, right, with the ICPA, family wellness practice, pediatrics, researching, writing books, writing material, um, and really scaling it and expanding it. So can you tell us where the Gonstead learning and your experience with Gonstead kind of fits into your story?
Yeah. Yeah. How God said to kind of change your life, it would have started with the amazing Dr. Richard Gold, and the fact that he's kind of saved my mom's life, literally, that she never really got into severe episodes again. And Dr. Gold's ability to, using the Gonstead system of observation, static emotion, palpation, instrumentation, and his fabulous reading of x-rays. And so that was very fundamental. And then I walk into a practice, that my dad was just pure Gonstead, and so, but there was no family wellness. And so by accident, not wasn't by accident, it was intentional that I started seeing more pregnancy and family and wellness. So I was able to translate Gonstead into a non-relief relationship and still feeling the integrity. I was still a Gonsteader, but I was adjusting not for disc issues anymore, but I was doing nervous system care. Because if you think about, why do babies and children come to see kids? They don't sleep well, they don't poop well, they have a weak immune system, they have constipation problems. Well, that's a physiological issue. And that's, by the way, that physiology is all Dr. Gonstead's system, parasympathetic, sympathetic. I mean, everything that
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Gonstead was talking about. I wish I had just 20 minutes in his life just to talk about, just his foundation, allow other people like myself to take the principles and not advance it, but evolve it. And so for somebody, so if somebody sees me doing static emotion palpation, or seeing my setup, or it's all about fifth digit, or second on second and thumb, because it can't always be positive form. I had the honor of moving the technique forward with hopefully within such integrity that, just if you're a fellow Gonsteader, the whole system fits in. We may just have to adapt it a little bit. Yeah, just adapt it a little
Right.
bit. Yeah.
Okay. So usually when we evolve something, there's resistance to that evolving, right? Did you ever experience any resistance in your process?
Yes and no. Yes. So there was not in pediatric pregnancy. So that was a because I was I created a category, so nobody had
Right.
thousands and thousands of adjustments. So by default, I was the gladiator in the ring, and I was the only one with the sword. And so that, to be honest with you, when you create the category, nobody no. So that was a no. But there were some things in our Gonstead system that, if you think about the 1980s and 1990s, there were things there that just were sometimes frustrating. And so when I became a board member and eventually the president of the Gonstead Clinical Studies Society, those things that needed to change, I just, with time and persistence and a lot of persistence and putting a lot of other really great people on the board that knew that we had to evolve it,
Hmm.
we were able to evolve it in a very respectful way, evolve it to where, it's now, others we're standing on their shoulders to stand on the next person's shoulders. And so I'm very honored that the first level of resistance, and I don't need to go into details, but I was able to do what I needed to do and quietly do it with some really great people like Dr. Sherry Goebel and Dr. Linda Mullen, and there were others, Dr. David Rowe. Um,
Hmm.
there was a group of us that we just were able to gently move things forward. But yes, even within our own system, and that's the nature of stuff. It's just that's human nature. I
Right.
mean, right, we're in the sandbox, and I want your toy, and no, that's been my toy for 50 years. And but here's another so yeah, it's human nature. So yeah.
Right. Right. Well, let me say that. Let me ask you this. Where do you see pediatric chiropractic moving forward today?
Ah, wow. For Gonstead or for the whole universe?
Just in general.
Um, where I see it is that it's creating momentum, and my dream has always been that there'll be enough of us doing chiropractic and pediatrics and pregnancy that there'll be a point, a tipping point, that my hope is that everybody will become so normalized that people, every child in let's say Northern America, let's just start in that little university. Every child
Hmm.
would have a family wellness chiropractor that's not treating them for symptoms, but just growing them up like dentistry. So in my lifetime, that's why I mentor so many doctors, because I don't really have to do any of this. I don't have to practice anymore. I do this because I want to touch thousands of more chiropractors. So we get the momentum going. I want the tipping point that every child is going to receive chiropractic care. Otherwise, it would be considered a form of child abuse because your nervous system wasn't adjusted. So that's why I'm going to keep teaching, keep mentoring, and all the rest. So my hope is that becomes the norm. Like if you have a pediatric dentist, you have a pediatric chiropractor. And so that's my hope. And I believe that our whole profession and ICPA and all the rest, everybody's we're gently pushing in that direction because there's thousands of chiropractors who are with the ICPA and so forth. So there's thousands of them and so forth. They love seeing children and pregnant women. So we're getting there. It's going to take maybe a couple more decades, but we're going to see it in our lifetime. We're going to see this happen.
One of the things that stands out about this interview is that you're all about collaboration. How important is collaborating the progression of our profession?
It's so important. It is because I mean you can always be you could always go in like there and just like a steamroller and steamroll over things, but then a lot of times you ruin the relationships with others. And what if
Mhm.
somebody who does if I was only stuck on Gonstead and I could only start the family wellness category with somebody else, I would have never met Judy Forrester. So the Larry Webster was certainly not Gonstead. So I just have always said, when the universe gives you an opportunity, how can meeting people or working with others or acknowledging their work and so forth, how do we work with others? And so it's been really, whether I encourage those, someday become a diplomat and maybe a fellow in the Gonstead Clinical Studies Society. If you have a heart for student doctors, go and volunteer time and teach at the chiropractic colleges. Donate your time back, get on board of directors, write case studies. And so we need each other. And now some
Mhm.
people have different gifts. Like my gift is not, I'm not really a researcher. but I'm a good communicator. So writing newsletters and flyers and social media to make parents stay longer into our practice. That's kind of my gift and talent. But the more of us that are together, and we need more people pulling in this direction, because if we do that, more our guns and family wellness practices, they'll continue to grow and be very successful and so forth. And as a collective whole, whether and as you said, that collaborate with others. Dr. Bobby, when we were ready to write the second and even the third edition, I realized the first edition just only had the Gonstead chapter because it was just Dr. Plaugher and myself, and I did introduce cranial sacral, and Dr. Plaugher had a challenge with that, and I just said, well, in the pediatric world, there are other things, and so I even tell my colleagues, yeah, in the second and third edition, I brought other techniques in because they find their own form of subluxation and they have their different approach. And so even though I'm Gondroid through and through, I have SOT, I have the Logan technique. I have a tongue tie brand new where sometimes it's oral work that needs to be done. I collaborated with other people in their other techniques. And so, and I thank my mom and dad for this. Once again, we went to seminars. And so when I was a child, I sat taking notes in Dr. D. Jarnett, founder of SOT, Clay Thompson, and all the rest. And so my dad said, well, we're Gonstead people, so we follow Dr. Gonstead, but each one of them have a system that they're able to help patients out. So I think I have to thank my parents for that, because as a young child, teenager, I was sitting at the feet of those other techniques, even though I had no attraction to do them, but I sat at their feet. And so that was the same thing in the second and third edition. I asked others who are my friends, hey, would you write a chapter in the book because you have something else to offer? So if we are better if we collaborate than just thinking that we're the only show out there.
I love that. Yeah. So knowing what you know now, being in practice over 40 years,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
What advice would you give your younger self?
Oh,
just starting into chiropractic, just kind of deciding to be a chiropractor.
But I would have listened to it. Okay. So what my mom would always tell, this is not going to work. Okay. So my mom always says, Claudia, and my mom, this was really my mom, I would see a mission and I would get it done. So my thing would be, it's like, my mom would always say, Claudia, you're just, once you see something, you don't stop until it's done. And she says, you're so good at building the rose garden. And she'd always tell me, Claudia, slow down and smell the garden, the roses. And even to this day, I don't have time to smell the roses. But if that's what, that would be the thing, is slow down and enjoy it. But to honestly, I wouldn't even listen to that advice. I would just keep doing what I'm doing. That's why I still do at 40 years in practice and traveling all over the world. And I drag my beloved husband after 30 years. He just jumps in a plane. I told him when we got married, Dr. Bobby, you better have a passport because we don't take vacations. I teach chiropractic, and sometimes there's some cool places. So, sure. But the advice I would have given myself, I wouldn't even listen to it. So, so I'm oops.
Well, you have Gary to help you smell the roses, right?
Yeah, he does. He's very creative, as you know. So he does. I do slow down. We have great dinners and all the rest. That's the balance of my marriage has helped me smell the roses. So absolutely.
Awesome. That's so great. Well, hey, thank you so much for spending this time with me and being on the show and sharing your wisdom and knowledge to our audience. And if anyone wants to reach out and find you, where can they find you?
Good place would be my website, drclaudiaanrig.com. That's a place where you can see when my seminars are going on, the rest. I can even I'll give you my cell number. Just text me that you're interested in talking about maybe growing a family practice. My cell number is 559-285-1480. And they're welcome to reach out, text me, or even if it's a case or anything I can help out with, because again, part of providing our profession to grow is knowing that the students or a young doctor or somebody who's just frustrated, you reach out to me and I'd be happy to chat with you and anything I could do to improve your quality of life, and just love what we all do.
Awesome. Dr. Claudia, you are amazing. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you.
Dr. Bobby, for everything you're doing. This podcast is going to change people's lives because you're looking behind the curtain.
Yeah.
It took another crew to build a set. And I'm very excited because it's beyond just how great somebody thou art, but it's going beyond that. And I'm thanking you because it's something we don't have yet. So thank you for pulling the curtain back and seeing that there's a stage sets being moved and other crew members going on. And by asking those kind of questions and giving us an opportunity, the platform to share, you're going to make a world of difference in your podcast. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much.